Okay. Instagram. I wanted to come in, check in on y'all while I had a few minutes before I really dove into the work of tonight. So y'all let me know what y'all got going on in your neck of the woods, and we will go from there. There we go. All right, so I guess we're gonna talk a little bit about the dead a little bit, and raising the dead. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about raising the dead. All right, so raising the dead. Now there are a couple of ways of looking at this. All right, this is a idea very strong here in the South, very strong in South Carolina. The raising of the dead. Really, as you're looking at the quote unquote the Bible Belt of the South. You hear this trope a lot, particularly among the older folks who would have an understanding of these kinds of things, right? And so there are two ways of looking at this, right? There is the literal raising of the dead, the reanimation of the physical body of an individual from the grave, and I'm certainly not about to share those secrets here live on Instagram. No, that's not happening. But what we will talk about is the raising of the dead in the sense of quickening the consciousness of the dead. All right, bringing it to a point of interaction. Okay, there are a lot of conversations about and around. There we go. I'm missing one more. Oh, there it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Raising of the dead is quickening that consciousness to life. All right. So when you deal with the dead, of course, the graveyard dirt comes up. How to use graveyard dirt, how to go collect graveyard dirt. I get a lot of those kinds of questions, and it's one of those things that no one ever really talks about in any practical way. Not that I've heard. Let me say that. Not that I've heard. For one, they'll say, or do this or do that, or don't forget to do this. It's almost like it's very retroactive the way they give instructions. And so it's not very instructive. Okay. You know a lot of what not to do, but then you don't know how to do what you're supposed to do. For example, they'll say, I've said it before, before you enter the graveyard, the cemetery, pay the gate. And, there are tariffs, okay, at the gateway to the dead. All right. And it somewhat does depend on if you're working with a graveyard or a cemetery, because there are two different things, and some of the protocols you use are different depending upon if it's a graveyard or a cemetery. Okay. Cemeteries are consecrated land. All right. There was ritual, there was prayers, whatever. There was ceremony done over that land to consecrate the land to receive the dead. All right, that's one of the separations of a cemetery versus a graveyard is unconsecrated. And so maybe when you're hearing, particularly if you're listening from the elders, you may notice they kind of use graveyard and cemetery interchangeably, or are they? Okay, that may be a question you never thought to ask, but go ask them if you have living elders. All right, some of them they say it's the same thing. All right, and some of them, okay, mean two different things, as is common to distinguish them. So, cemetery and the graveyard. If you're entering into a cemetery, sometimes there is a grave, a gate, okay, to that cemetery. They kind of demark the boundaries and the borders of the dead and the realm of the dead. And so what you first want to do is you want to take your coins in your hand, okay, such as 3 pennies, for example, 9 pennies may be your tradition, and you're going to go before the gate of the cemetery. All right, bow. All right, some traditions you may actually bow down 3 times. Others you need to bow down once or whatever, and knock before the cemetery, either before the gate, on the gate, or in that entrance before you move in there. And then drop your coins there from your hand. So knock, knock, knock. Okay, drop your coins. All right, and then you can begin to go into the world of the dead. Okay. Now, you may also leave a white candle, all right, as well. Again, per your tradition. Okay. What I'm just offering here are a number of ways to go about this. You want to line up with what your tradition states. Okay. All of these are relevant, is what I'm saying. Okay. So if they seem a little contradictory, that's simply because they're different traditions. All right. In the system of Conjure. So you go and you do your work. Now, I get asked this question so many times. Are there deities in Hoodoo? All right, because people love to make these correlations, conversations about, you know, if there's a deity, if there are deities, then maybe there's a codified doctrine behind it, and if there's deities and a codified doctrine, then it might be a religion. If it's a religion, then, you know, they go on and on. I'm not here to settle that argument today. But as I've said before, I'll say again, there are spirits in the catalog, as it were, of Conjure. All right, and particularly here, being Geechee myself, I know many people claim to be Geechee, claim to be Gullah, but now I was born in North Charleston, South Carolina, right off of Dorchester Road. All right, both my people from Wild Lane all the way up to Dorchester Wayland. All right. So, if you know anything about this area, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So, when you talk about raising the dead, you know, there are spirits of the graveyard like the head man. All right. Or the man. Okay. And the head man is who we call in Conjure, I should say in my tradition, the keeper of the gate. Okay. Now, he's in every cemetery. The legends go that, you know, it was the first person buried. All right. There you go. See, there you go. All right, somebody's right on it. The first person buried in the grave. All right. Now you can kind of discern if you know if you kind of got your wits about you. You may feel there's an animal following you, or you may feel that there are human eyes or somewhat human-like eyes, or should I say a human-like personality watching you, or whatever the case may be. That's letting you know if the head man was a person, because in some cases, all right, there might have been a dog that was buried there first, all right, and I think it's also true in some of the European traditions, and they have what they call the fairy hounds, or the Geitrish, I believe is the name of it. Let me just Google that right quick so I can be yeah, the Geitre, I think it's how it's pronounced. Legendary black dog known in northern England. All right. You know, I remember I was a part. I wasn't necessarily a part of, but I was present, I should say, when they were doing some kind of circle casting or whatever, and one of the lines of it was. Oh my goodness. They drew this boundary. I summon forth, I call forth the fairy hounds from outer darkness now drawn near, and prowl beyond the circle's bounds and put intruders' hearts in fear. All right. That was one of their incantations when they would, you know, do their circle, whatever, that I happened to be privy to at the time. So it might have been a guard dog that was there. Okay, was the first to be buried there. All right, and there to be there. All right, that normally is an iron gate or some metal gate that hold the dead in place. And you can even, if it's begin to rust, you can take that rust and use it to also constrain spirits of the dead as well. Okay. Like, say, for example, in spirit traps, things of that nature. Okay. Hauntings and areas that are vexed by wandering spirits or lonely souls or restless dead or what have you. You can drop some of that same rust off at the four corners of that property, and even in the center, to keep that spirit there. Okay. Yeah. So you can, you know, the headman is one. The black dog is one. Why do things become haunted, and what creates a restless soul? There are a number of things that can create a restless soul. Normally, it's the way a person died more so than the way they lived. If they died in trauma, if they died in a state of deep victimization, okay, then it can cause their soul to be restless. All right. Bear in mind that the body, the soul, and the spirit are not the same thing. Okay. I know that gets deeply fluid. It's really liquefied. Those words are really liquefied in the modern culture. But from my tradition, there are three very, or I should say, relatively distinct things. But deep trauma, heavy victimization, particularly to the point of death, murder, suicide, are some ways that can make a person restless. Even even being forgotten, the lonely souls. All right. If you're part of my masterclass, you know we talked about this for 3 hours. By the way, I reached out to somebody and then make a video and put this in Facebook. Do I still have this? I probably did delete it, but I hope for your sakes I did not. Okay, yeah, I did delete it, but yes, black hens, black dogs, animals there are particularly auspicious, particularly powerful. Okay, you know, if you don't have dirts and powders and or I should say, if you don't have powders and sticks and stones and roots and bones and whatever, dirts are very powerful, and even the more from cemeteries. Okay, even the more from cemeteries. Now I won't get too deep into this because this is reserved for my apprentices, but I will say the dirt from the grave of a banker is much more useful and versatile than dirt from a bank. All right, because you can have you can walk that spirit with the dirt, and I won't speak anymore. That'll be for my apprentices on how to walk spirits. But the forgotten dead, also the restless dead, yes. The lonely souls, yes. The forgotten dead. When you go into a cemetery, you see that grave that has been left unkept, no flowers, not been tended to. You can barely see the tombs, the stone over it, right? That's a prime example. All right, those spirits are normally very eager to work with the living. They're eager to be remembered. Okay, and you might find great success working with them. Now, I know the retort is going to be, well, what about ancestors? Well, what about them? Okay. I am no stranger to saying that your ancestors are your first line of defense in all regards. But your ancestors, that is a very broad classification. Okay. You're talking about from your current blood to the first one to ever walk the planet. That's a very broad classification. May not have been specialists in every area. All right. Sometimes you may need the help of another spirit to break the curse off of you, so then you can help with your ancestors break the curse off your generation. What I mean by that, if you and your ancestors all had problems with money, all right, you and your ancestors were always philandering, as some old saints would say, okay, then there's not much they can do in death that they could not do in life. And I say that they couldn't do, I said there's not a whole lot. They can do a great deal, but comparatively speaking, all right, they are going to be within the same range of expertise, specialities, character types, personality as they were when they were in the flesh and in the blood. All right. So, something to consider. Okay, as you go to raise the dead. Now, another topic that is spoken of, but not really, I don't know, explained. Okay, to X meaning out, and to make it plain, to plainly bring out something. They give a lot of innuendos and a lot of ambiguous word salad. Things like, well, the spirit has to, the spirit has to, what? How do they word it? Basically, you have to ask permission. That's what I'm looking for. You have to ask permission of the dead. All right. Well, when you're living in a day and an era where the vast majority of people have very limited, if any, proficiency, let alone efficiency in the art or the skill of divination, you're already back 10 paces. All right. And people don't like being told no, how much more telling themselves no. And so because they tell themselves yes, they can discern the voice of the dead. Especially if it's the first time going to a grave. Okay? So they're already behind 15 paces. So here is a very simple divinatory practice. All right. You speak with the grave. Okay. And carry with you a white candle. Now you ain't gotta be deep in bringing these large 14-day. You walk into the cemetery. That's why they got signs now. No voodoo, no hoodoo, no santeria. You can bring one of those little 4-inch. See how I get me saying 14? 4-inch emergency white candles with you. All right, and light it. All right, over the grave. All right, you can circumnavigate the grave. You can say 3 times or whatever. Okay, as you kind of measure about how how long the grave may be. All right, and if that candle keeps going out, that's a no. I don't want to be bothered. That's very simple. That's very simple. Y'all coming out there bringing 14 decks of oracle cards, 6 decks of tarot, 4 different kinds of pendulums, and shamalongos, and a spirit box. And some of y'all real deep. You got your little spirit box app on your phone. Just in case. You don't know what you're getting. Oh, you try to get some grave dirt. Okay, and next thing you know, the police on your door, because they think you done did an unauthorized seance on somebody's grandmama's grave. Because the gravekeeper told on you. Alright, so, alright. Great question. There is a way to enter and exit cemeteries and graveyards. The scripture talks about how to go in and out amongst kings. There's a way to go in and out in kingdoms. All right, the word there is decorum. All right, there's spiritual protocols and decorum. All right, I don't think highly. Let me say that That's my new term now. I don't think highly of practitioners that just kind of throw you out and say, go get grave dirt to do this work, without any specific protocols to admonish you by. I think that's reckless and may indicate that they themselves don't know what to do. That's why they're having you do it. You know. I also don't have the highest regard. I'm learning how to parse my words here. I don't have the highest regard for people who sell graveyard dirt. I have very deep vexations about that, to be quite honest. If you're gonna give it, okay, maybe, sure, but selling it, I would not advise that, and I would not endorse many of my students doing that. Okay. Now if you're with a worker and they say, hey, this is the cost of the work, and I'm gonna send you this, and it, that's already in the package deal or whatever. Okay, that's okay. It's another matter altogether different. But so two attachments. Coco laba keke mantoko rika nandidi. Mishkele la bonbon zabada. Bori di dinda bantoko. Here we go. You can see I keep plenty of it. I got plenty of this stuff. That's why I gotta look. It's somewhere everywhere. It's in a corner everywhere. Okay. This is what you're gonna need if you have attachments and so on. Let's say you're very deeply sensitive to things like that, whatever. Or if you're not, doesn't matter. We think that he just being sensitive. Just because a person is or is not sensitive does not mean they don't have an attachment. This means whether they're aware of it or not. That's all that means. Okay, like you have a booger in your nose. You got one. You just don't know you got one. That's the only difference. Okay. So, right. If you don't follow protocols, you're opening yourself up to be vexed by the dead. All right. You are living. You have flesh and blood and bone. All right. And they don't. Okay. Even some of the most unassuming, even some of the most kind and generous and magnanimous and philanthropic dead are still dead. They are incorporeal. You are corporeal. All right. So, even the nice ones will try to ride you. All right? Because you have your spirit with the soul and yet in your body. Okay? So therefore you are a great vehicle. All right? So here is some help to you. All right? This plant, its common name is called Espanta Muerto. Espanta Muerto. Look it up, find it, Google it, whatever. ESPANT MUERTO. Espanta Muerto. All right? It means to, there it is. Thank you so much. God bless you forevermore. To scare or to scatter the dead or the spirits. Okay? That will definitely cut all that out. Alright? That would definitely cut all that out. Alright? I've never had a problem leaving a bottle of that there once I enter the cemetery, right there by the gate. Okay. Because I want the dead to be activated while I'm there, while I'm in the realm of the dead. I'm coming here to talk to y'all. I don't want everybody to be scared while I'm here, you know, that kind of thing. So, but I'll leave that by the gate on the inside. Okay. And then before I pass out, while I'm paying the man again, that's when I would. What you can take is this is another way you can work with this. You can take a Espanto Muerto. You can make a strong tea out of it if you like, and make a spritz, a mist if you want to. You can take the fresh herb, put it in, let's say a cologne that you enjoy, maybe Florida water, something like that, or whatever spritz cologne you enjoy. Okay, and just leave it there. It's not literally because you can come back and pick it back up. Come back and pick it back up, obviously. Okay. And you know, wash yourself with that. You know, on the way out, dip in the back of your neck, your head. Okay. Apply it as you would mosquito spray. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Apply it as you would mosquito spray. You know, pretty much all exposed parts. Okay. And certainly your feet as well. So, you know, if you're going to the grave to do some work, you know, have some loafers on or whatever, so you can slip off of quite easily. All right. Certainly so. Having the head covered, all right, is great spiritual practice and protocols. All right. In general, unless you're in a very strict apostolic church and you are a man and you're prophesying or praying, then, you know, having your head covered is perfectly fine. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, Espanto Muerto. Okay. So, you know, you can even put Espanto Muerto in a cologne, like your actual perfume. And you take with you in your purse. It'll be fine. All right. And as you are approaching, leaving out, take, you know, spray yourself down. And so you know, you don't smell like the dead, or even, so you got some fragrance behind it too. And it's very innocuous. All right. Conjure, one of the first principles of conjure is covertness. So I'm studying this just a few hours ago. All right. Not everything has to be loud and proud. All right. You can be proud. You don't have to be extravagant or flamboyant or grandiose about your practice. In many cases, that's actually somewhat antithetical, both to the result you're looking for and to the practice as a whole. Okay. You know, come with flowers. All right, potted flowers if you intend to shady or dry the leaves, or put them in fresh. You can put them in your bottle fresh if you have them fresh. All right, and like I said, the bottle of Florida water will steep very strong. You'll get a very strong infusion there with the fresh herb. Now, if you want the smell to be innocuous, you still want to keep that Florida water smell, then let it dry first. All right, you put fresh herbs in there, it's going to become chlorophyll laden. But if it doesn't matter, then, you know, go with your preference there. So that being said, just raising the dead, as we're talking here, some protocols, kind of trying to give you some details here as to how to go about that. Someone asks, would this be considered type? Yes, this would be necromancy. Yes. All right. It really depends on your intent with the dead. Okay. Ancestor and veneration of the dead. It's like your very light entry level necromancy. When you go into sending the dead out, transacting with them, now you're starting to get into your mid level. That's you're in necromancy at that point. So continuing with that, okay. The dirts, like I said, are very, very prominent. Okay. as you're entering. Great questions. I just got asked this question maybe less than an hour ago. Someone asked me, they asked me a similar question. They said, how long should I wait before I put somebody on my ancestral altar? And my tradition is about, now normally you will get the eulogy. First of all, they had to at least be in the ground or whatever's there with the body. Okay. That's I found to be universal in all traditions I've looked at. That was to Conjure. All right. You don't work with the dead while they're above ground. Okay. They may come to you in dreams or something like that. That's a little bit different. But as far as actively working with the dead, seeing as a taboo, you don't do that. Give them some time. They haven't literally even gotten their bed to rest. You said rest in peace. They even got the rest part. They even be able to pull the cover of the dirt over them yet. Let the people get some rest. Number one, because when you cross over, you don't want the last thing you hear to be, oh mama, no, as you passing on, and the first you hear is, hey mama, my goodness, I can't even get 2 winks worth of sleep here. Y'all gonna be like Voldemort. Y'all gonna go find somebody to grieve. Y'all remember what was it? The end of the first Deathly Hallows, I think it was. Voldemort went and found the man grave. Man ain't even been dead yet. And what did he do? Light up the whole sky. Just grandiose. That's right there where they said no hoodoo, no voodoo, no Santeria, no palo round the front gate. Because the voter during more. That's the problem right there. Tom Riddle. Anywho, that's my Tom Riddle rant for the day. Carrying on here. So 21 to 40 days. All right, 21 to 40 days. Before we start doing any type of, anything beyond that. Like I said, the earliest is at least the body got to be in the ground. Okay. You may go to the service and they have a obituary. All right. An obituary. Especially people of color. I speak for people who look like me because I look like me. We collect obituaries now. You got somebody in your family. There's somebody who's a chronicle keeper, an aunt, a grandmother, okay, that got a whole drawer of the dead. Okay, you can also find the dead in 2 places, either in somebody's drawer or in the family Bible. Okay, and it's always the same folk who call who didn't show up, and say, well, how was the funeral? They dead. What do you mean? How was the funeral? How was the last one you been to? It's the same. How was the last one you went to? That's the first problem right there. If your ass had been there, you wouldn't have to ask. Don't ask me nothing about how the funeral was. That just never mind to me. I never could intellectualize that question. But really it comes from an older question of, were they laid to rest well? That's where that comes from, right? And now, how was the funeral? But the older question was, were they laid to rest? You can put them on the ground and lay them to rest, And someone want to ask who did the body. They got to know who did the body now, because you can't have everybody handle the dead, And just some black folk magic for y'all, That's how we do. We do that kind of carrying on. Who did the body? Oh, she looked good in it. Yeah, child, they did her real good. That kind of thing. And so they're gonna hope they look just as good as you do when they die, I guess. That's black folk. That's right. Who had the body? Who didn't the body? Y'all know I'm carrying on about. I'm not speaking amiss to you. And we're like, what are they talking about? This is black folk. This is black folk magic here. So, you know, we have those. This is really getting to longer conversations about funerary rites and just ancestral veneration. We've always had that, right? Always have had that as part of our tradition. You know, the carrying on at the funerals, we say. You know that. You know, if you go to the Middle East back in the, if you go in the biblical days, they would hire mourners. That was a paid job. That was a come up. That was a come up. You could get paid to mourn. Now you get paid to do. Let me stop. Get stop that. Get you running out. Stop that. My spirit like to. Don't excuse me. Anyway, you used to get paid to mourn, you know. And so yeah, they would carry on and get in the casket and get out the casket and, you know, and slobber and slime and slick and slack and, you know, mascara on the you know, on the body and this, that, and the other, and take pictures, you know, and record and all that. Well, now some of that has become a little, this is only my opinion. That's all I got to give is my opinion on this. Some of that has become a little tasteless. Okay. I think, by that I mean, there was a time before social media, right, where the camera and the photograph and the video, whatever, had a level of sanctity and difference. It was held as something apart, right? It was something sacred. Now, you know, I don't necessarily know if I want to see your funeral on Snapchat. That personally, you know, I don't know. But yeah, they take pictures with the dead and that kind of thing. So that was all part of the culture and of the tradition. So that being said, what I want to say, I wanted to say the headman, the black dog, yeah, dignity and respect with that is it's kind of out of the door now. That's what it had a level of dignity and respect to it. Thank you. Now not so much. Now to haunt someone, okay, and you would work with the dead before they're in the ground, but that's a whole other. That's gonna be preserved for my apprentice. That's some heavy stuff. Let me back up. Where was I at? What I wanted to talk about the crossroads in the cemetery. I want to talk about the big tree. Right. So yeah, the big tree. I'm getting to that. In the cemetery. So maybe someone asks here that maybe they had an issue with taking dirt from the grave. All right. Nothing wrong with that. Right. If you have a personal prohibition of that, by all means, abide by that. I'm not here to you know, encourage you one way or the other. But what you can do is dirt from the gate of the graveyard. Normally, I should say the cemetery rather, there may be some point of intersection, like a crossroads in the cemetery. You may collect dirt from there. The head tree or the big tree, you would look around, you see there's normally a tree in the cemetery larger than all the other trees. All right. The Greeks would call it the hamadryad. Okay. You know, the dryads were the nymphs the spirits, the nature spirits that inhabited the trees. The hamadryad would be the largest tree in the forest. That would be kind of the superior, supervise all the other trees. So you can get dirt from those locations without disturbing the dead per se. Okay. You're going to have it for a more general purpose. You won't necessarily get the level of specificity that you would get from the grave, but it is still graveyard dirt or cemetery dirt nonetheless. Okay. Works done in the cemetery, things taken from the cemetery, have that kind of, like, for example, if you happen to have magnolia trees. Now, if you go, now you see a lot of this in Savannah. Okay. You got magnolia trees here in the South, obviously. But Savannah, we're going to Savannah, they have magnolia trees in the cemetery. Now, I've not been to a cemetery. Let me speak hastily. Let me say this. I've not noticed. There may have been. I haven't noticed magnolia trees in cemeteries that I've been to. All right. One reason, because see, magnolias. If you ever had a magnolia, or like my grandmother, she has magnolia trees. They actually had to hewn one down for a number of reasons. But magnolias have very deep roots. And you have them too close to the house, they can mess with your piping after a while, maybe even the foundation of the house. And they're very common here in the South. But magnolia is good for fidelity, to keep a partner, to anchor work, and marriage. Okay, you know the old saying was you put magnolia under the bed and they'd stay. Now let me say this also. Fidelity work didn't always mean they would not fuck around. Okay? Just hear me out on this. Old school, you know, that was there also. But the bare minimum was you wouldn't get divorced. You wouldn't be separated in your marriage. Okay? They wouldn't leave you, per se. There wouldn't be a breakup. So, I want to say that some of you guys are looking at some of these older works and you're hearing old time talk about that kind of thing. You may think that means tying them down or tying his nature. See, there were different things. Fidelity work and keeping him at the house, keeping her at the house, different than tying up their nature. Okay. And they had two different purposes. Okay. That's another conversation. But back to magnolia. If you find magnolia in the cemetery, this is good for marriage work, because literally until death do us part. Okay, I'm going to say something very controversial here. There are those who have been disenchanted with the idea of marriage. I get it. To each his own. Okay. I'm relatively old school, somewhat conservative, I guess. I was raised by older folks in the South, of all places. So, I have some conservative values. Not all, but some. Many have a strong emphasis on marriage. Or whomever getting married. I don't care if it's male, female, or whatever. If you're no, not in that case, but marriage. And what was I going with that? I was talking about marriage. Okay, yeah. So, my godson was over here a couple of weeks ago and we were talking. He's been looking at this engagement for like 3 years. And he's like, I'm giving it one more year, Pop, and this ain't, I'm just going to turn this whole thing loose. I'm break this thing off. And, he was like, he's kind of going back and forth between to break it off, or even to get married? You know, is it just a convention, whatever. And so I told him about the conventions of this spiritual house. I told him about our traditions. Of course, he had his own free will. I'm just giving him precedence for the lineage he comes from. And that's, you know, your choice, ultimately yours. But if you're asking the question about what makes marriage different, from our tradition, the mindset is this. Outside of marriage, you know, well, he was talking about the wedding. He's a Taurus too, so I get that. You know, wedding costs like, child, we can go to the court office and get this thing taken care of. I understand. You know, he's like, you know, we know we love each other. Our friends know we love each other. Our family knows we love each other. Everyone knows we love. We've been together for however long. I said, yeah, that may be the point of a wedding. Okay. But marriage, through the wedding procedure, wedding is a ritual. And it gives licentiate to a third party. All right? It's a formal way of saying, here's my signature, here's my spouse's signature, but there is an invisible third signature on the marriage certificate. All right? And those are the spirits that you invoke at that wedding. All right? And that's what makes it a little bit different. Okay? Is a formal way to invoke the spirits, to have licentiate in your marriage. All right? So that when you're at your wits and he or she or they are at their wits, there's a little third party there that can mediate and mitigate between the two parties. To that end, Magnolia in the cemetery, death, says until death, what? Do us part. Right? It may be custom to the broom that is presented to be jumped over, and particularly in couples of color, is buried or left with or set on a grave of one of the parents or one of the ancestors. Normally those that lived a long time together, they died together basically. That would ensure the longevity of that relationship, that marriage. Okay. Maybe their dirt was kept in the pockets during the wedding procedure. Powdered pieces of magnolia, all right, secretly added into the flower girl's. Y'all didn't know about that trick, did you? Normally the mother-in-law would do this. All right, you know, in most cases they would have either rice or it would be like white flowers. Okay, the flower girl, whatever, would have a basket. Y'all know what I'm talking about. They would go down the aisle and, you know, flowers here, flowers, whatever. But they would slip pieces of magnolia, you know, magnolia is also white, into that basket she had. Yeah, I know that, did you? Some of y'all did, because some of y'all was that mother-in-law. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't sit and look at me like I'm fool. I've been black all my life. I've been Southern all my life. Okay. But that was to ensure that the relationship, that the marriage, would keep. All right, because normally it would be on the ground. So it's foot track, man. You'd walk over that. You see, a lot of people don't know. The white flowers and the magnolias crushed and put into the. Okay, somebody knows what I'm talking about. All right, because you know, if you're throwing something out, all right, white flowers look like white flowers. All right, you don't know if they're white roses. A lot of white flowers. A lot of flowers come in white, or what makes it appear white in the in the to the naked eye, right? So bear that in mind, right? But until death do you part, right? And those can be found, like I said, in the graveyard. So trees and plants or whatever in the graveyard have another layer of potency behind them because they're found in the cemetery. All right. So I just wanted to, if you are laying a spirit to rest, maybe from a haunting or whatever, you remove your spirit from an individual. You've got, you've made a spirit trap. You can lay that spirit trap to rest at the in the cemetery. Okay. Divination may tell you exactly where, whether you leave it by the gate, okay, of the cemetery. You may leave it, like I said, at the big tree. All right. You may leave it at the crossroads in the cemetery. Even further, let's say maybe there is no crossroads per se. There's no, in the topography of the landscape, there might not be an intersection there, but there may be one tombstone that has a large cross on it. That is where the crossroads is at. Okay. A lot of works can be done there. A lot of works can be done at the gate of the cemetery. I have removed death from people at the gates of the cemetery. All right, barred death from them. It was going to look like premature death. All right. Now, of course, divination was done. All right. Before you start meddling in those areas, be aware of that. Okay. Sometimes, it needs to run its course, and that can be very, very hard. Especially when you're in a situation where you know what to do, you know how to do, you've done it before, you got success every time you've done it, and then the spirit says, no, let's run its course. If it's family or friends, somebody close to you, whatever, particular client, that that's one of the hardest things. When I know one of my, from my receipt book, as it were, that was one of the heaviest things to deal with. I had a client that come to me. She said, I know that you do this because I'm coming to you because somebody sent me to you, and I see what happened with them. I was there in the hospital room when you did this work. I need the same work done for X, Y, and Z. Telling them that spirits that I don't have license to do that. I can't, I can, aid in passing and things like that. But I can't deter death on this one. It's not on my hands to do. Is the Baron at the large cross? I don't work with the Baron. I don't know things related to Voodoo and so on. Or I'm speaking particularly in the tradition of Hoodoo and Conjure. All right, y'all. Thanks for carrying me over into 1221. Look at that. I hold you all in the light of God. I hope this helps. I hope this clarified and actually explained some things and not just threw words at you. I hope this blessed you. In the meantime, in between time, I hold you all in the light of God that never fails. God bless you all forever.